The Sports Scouting Report with Lee Burkeen. Brought to you by Medines Collision Center in Baton Rouge. Take control, choose Medines. Grosse Savant Lodge, south of Lake Charles, the true sportsman's paradise. Treads and Care Company in Central, the tires you need, the service you want. Harvey Auto in Shreveport, Bossier City, the name you have trusted for years. And Gage in Baton Rouge. Get better connected with Gage. Here's your host, Lee Burkeen.
Hi everyone, I'm Lee Burkeen, the host of the Sports Scouting Report. We're going to have a great show today. Our guest is Mitch Small, former marketing director, 29 years for the LHSAA, high school football, all sports in Louisiana. We're going to tell stories. Mostly all good stories, I believe. We're going to introduce, and look, there's a lot of stories that me and him can go back and forth on because I met Mitch when I started my magazine and then went to him to get advice. And we'll talk about that and talk about high school championship games over the years. We can share both of our stories, and he did all of them. You might remember his voice at the games, halftime, beginning of the game. It was Mitch Small doing all these high school games. Without the camera there, sometimes he got on the camera, but we're going to go ahead and bring Mitch back. Mitch Small's our guest. We'll be right back.
Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. If you need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, go see Medines Collision Center located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. Your Baton Rouge Accident Advisors.
Welcome back, Lee Burkeen, your host. Mitch Small is our guest, retired. That's where I want to be soon. But no, I'm enjoying what I do, but it's great to be retired, huh, Mitch?
It is.
Thank you for being on.
Good to see you, Lee. Good to spend time with the grandkids, and just moved out to Central because all 5 grandkids reside in Central, so thus we reside in Central.
You know, it's amazing. I grew up in Central. My family's from Baton Rouge, but everybody that lived in Central in the 80s mostly was from Central. Now everybody I meet since I moved is moving to Central. I think Gordy Rush and some other people live out there.
Yeah, I've seen Gordy out there.
But I want to mention Mitch is a Lutcher native. And I mean, I don't know what part he could say. Is it Paulina?
Class of 77, Lutcher Bulldogs.
Because there's all those little
Lutcher,
towns.
In Lutcher.
In Lutcher.
Yeah.
And always, we always talk about the Lutcher Bulldogs and St. James and the rivalry.
Did.
But did a great job at the LHSAA marketing director. We're going to tell a lot of stories today. There's a lot of games that obviously he covered. He's got the total in his head. We talked about that. Talked about the Superdome, all the different games that he was a part of. Starting out, what made you get into LHSAA? I never asked you.
Well, I'm going to throw a name out there.
How did that happen?
I'll throw a name out there that a lot of sports fans in Louisiana may know this, recognize this name. A guy by the name of Steve Worthy. He's director of the New Orleans Open, the Zurich Classic.
Okay.
Steve was at LSU. I was at Nichols. I was going to school same time. Walt Lemoyne, who's current principal of Bruley, and Walt and Steve were big buddies. We got introduced and we became friends.
Okay.
Fast forward, Steve goes off to graduate school in Ohio, gets his master's degree in sports administration. At that time, only place in the country that had first place to ever have a master's degree in sports administration. And by chance, Steve and I kept in touch, and I'd run into him, and he told me he had just graduated and was working for Jack Nicklaus at Muirfield Country Club and golf course. And he said, Mitch, you really need to look into going to graduate school, getting your master's. I was in my late 20s then, single, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So Steve gave me the contacts of school. I contacted and then applied, and through some kind of typographical error, I was accepted to grad school after an interview, and the rest is history. That kind of propelled me on the path to kind of be the right guy in the right place, right time with Tommy Henry and the LHSAA.
Tell people, because I mean, I know what the LHSAA is, but if you're watching and you're in Shreveport or Monroe and you don't know, tell them what that stands for. What it
Louisiana High School Athletic Association.
Just for people that don't know what that means.
That's right.
And that governs all high school sports, not just football.
Every state, the national parent organization, comparable to what the NCAA is to college, is called the National High School Federation. And every state has a state association that runs its public schools, and most run public and private, kind of like Louisiana does, or select, non-select, as we refer to it. But that's the governing body over high school sports in Louisiana. Started in 1920.
1920.
1920.
Huey P. Long days.
That's correct.
I went to the Texas Association meetings, which blew me away, Mitch.
It's called the UIL. It's what it's called now.
Yeah,
That's correct.
And I went to there 1 week.
Yeah.
You know, I'm used to Louisiana, 300 coaches.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But they had 3,000 schools.
It's crazy.
And they had over 250,000 coaches.
It's unbelievable.
And I said,
how big it is.
And I went and got our hotel room in San Antonio where they do it.
Yeah.
And they do it in conjunction with the San Antonio U.S. Army game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all the colleges now, I saw them here, and y'all did a great job here.
Yeah.
But it'd be 100 Texas colleges, you know, show up at this thing.
Lee, a lot of people will remember the old LHSAA, which is another group, the Louisiana High School Coaches Association. We put on our high school all-star games. Were played in Tiger Stadium, the football and the basketball and volleyball in the Assembly Center. Well, when that kind of ended, for a few years, the LHSAA was going to play Texas to make it fair. We had 290-something high schools in Louisiana played football. To play against Texas, we did just the Houston, Beaumont area schools. They had enough schools in Houston and Beaumont that would make it comparable to what we had in the entire state of Louisiana.
Was that the one that was in Baytown?
It was, yeah.
Baytown, Texas.
Yeah, did that for a few years.
A lot of sponsors in that
Absolutely,
area.
absolutely. A lot of great football players played in that game.
And Baytown had a great venue over there.
They did beautiful.
Didn't they have a turf field?
I never got to go.
You didn't go?
No, I didn't go. BJ, the Coaches Association ran that. BJ Gazzardo and Max Chauvin, those guys ran that.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Mitch about, speaking of venues, how it's changed. You know, back in the day, you know, basketball could be played at ULL back in the day, the championships, or it could be in Hammond.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. And in baseball, softball, always Sulphur, Louisiana. Yeah. So, and in the other sports, you have to tell me. I don't know where swimming is and golf and all that stuff, but we'll be back with more Mitch Small.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Treads & Care Tire Company, located in Central. Call 331-8144. Family owned and operated. It's 1971. That's 331-8144. Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Gros Savon Lodge has fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours. Located south of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Give them a call at 337-598-2357. That number to call again is 337-598-2357, and have the time of your life.
Welcome back. Lee Burkeen, your host of Sports Scouting Report. We got Mitch Small, our guest, retired, LHSAA, retired 29 years, marketing director. Mitch, we're talking about the venues of the different sports programs in Louisiana high school, whether it be swimming or baseball, softball, basketball, golf.
Sure.
The bid process, you told me, is you know, how this all comes about, where it's going to be, what city and where. And
I'll take a step back, Lee, just so people that may not know that the LHSAA is owned by the principals of the state of Louisiana and run by the principals of the state of Louisiana. We have an executive board. The executive committee is comprised of mostly principals. We have a coaches representative, and we have some other athletic director representatives and stuff like that, but it's mostly principals. And what we did with our bigger events, they're put out for bid. And people bidded on them. The host them cities, it's usually the convention and visitors bureaus, along with the venue, would put a bid together and come before our board and make a presentation. Back in the late 90s, that all LHSAA paid usually rights there because somebody had to cover security cost and all staffing.
Yeah.
So we had some cost. That all changed when the Cajun Dome and UL Lafayette came in and bid on hosting basketball and gave us a $0 bid. And that kind of changed things. And then later on, fast forward to in the 2010, somewhere in that range, when Lake Charles came in, not only did they have it rent free for their facilities, they gave us a cash incentive on top of that. It was like 20 grand to come and play in their venues. So I think what changed over the time, the Convention and Visitors Bureau saw the crowds we were bringing had value and made an economic impact in the cities around the state of Louisiana.
And then the Dome came calling.
The Dome was started in 81, and that was before I was here, but that just really, Tommy Henry told me stories that in the first couple of years they were holding their breath, just hoping they could pay the bills and kind of get out of town when it was all said and done. And in the 90s, when I got here, just happened to be at the right time, and you had the Evangels and the Josh Booties and the big schools coming on, and you had the 50 and 60,000 fan crowds, and it really took off. And then television followed not long after that.
Peyton Manning came out the same year as Josh Booty. That was crazy in '92. That's when I came into the scene, trying to get involved. We hosted a banquet at a Holiday Inn on Segan. And it was the first, I think, that was ever of that kind, but I was trying to just get people together. And my whole idea was to get the whole state to come down, the top 30 players. And I was 21, and I called all these people, and they thought I was probably 30, 35. I didn't say how old I was. But this is before Louisiana Football Magazine, and I remember just hitting it off with the dads and the parents and the coaches. Said, look, we're going to give y'all trophies. We're going to honor these kids. And 750 people showed up.
That's crazy.
We didn't charge anybody to show up.
Yeah.
And then we said, wow, why don't we do this and just have something to cover it? Like you said, we got to cover it. So I think it was a $5 entry fee to go, and we had it at Hooters for six years, where kids could commit. That's before people committed at All-Star games.
That's right.
That's before all of this happened.
That's right.
But we had Brady James and all kind of big names, Dominic Davis commit at our banquets, and we'd get almost 1,000 people. I remember the fire marshal showing up going, no more, no mas, no more, you know. But like you said, that was crazy, 92. And then you hit 96 when I met you, 97. And you look at it now, you got All-Star games on ABC.
Oh,
They've really tapped into it.
Sure.
There's nothing like the Dome, right?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I tell people we went to national meetings each year. The National High School Federation would do a national conference, and they didn't want to know about our eligibility programs, our hardship. How do you pull off playing the state football championships in the Dome? So a lot of states were quite envious of the facility we had available to us.
When you got involved, Mitch, do you remember the crowd amounts in the start in the Dome compared to later on?
They were probably in at that time we played 5 games. Public and private was still together. We had 5 classifications, and there was probably 35, 40 something thousand people, and then kind of some of those, I remember those years, those Brock Berlin years, and some of those great West Monroe teams. And we always said if you had the right mix of teams that were first-timers and you had the right mix of teams that were traditional, brought big crowds, that's kind of was kind of the perfect storm. 29 years of doing that, we never got St. Aug in there, and I always wondered what Aug would bring. That's right. Finally got Jesuit, and finally got Rummel, but never had St. Aug.
But had Curtis a lot.
Had Curtis a lot.
And also Rummel made it at the end.
That's
a
right.
few times when you were there.
That's right. For me, the enjoyment was seeing the small public schools in the state and their first times. I remember the first time Welsh made it. And the first time Iota
the whole town came.
That's right. And so you got those schools in there, and then you get the Lutchers and the Kent Woods and those, and you'd see everybody. I said, where else could you watch an event where the mayor is sitting next to the school janitor?
Right.
And that's kind of how I sold it to sponsors. There was no greater community event than playing for a state championship, whether it was football or any of our other sports.
Well, then you'd see a night game, and just kind of speeding up to what we're talking about, but you'd see a Hahnville, let's just say, playing a Zachary.
Yeah.
35,000 people at that
crazy.
game.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Just
That
one game. One
yeah,
game.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, we opened the terrace. We had to open it. I think it was 3 different times. The crowds had gotten big enough that it warranted opening
In the 40s.
terrace. Yeah,
40,000 plus
yeah,
a game.
Yeah, that's right.
We're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to have more Mitch Small. We're going to talk about some of his stories that stick out to him, and I want to mention what he enjoyed, how he enjoyed doing the games at the championships. He would have this "I'm ready to rumble" deal that he was really good at. He'd get everybody psyched, kind of like a boxing match. But we'll be right back with more Mitch Small.
Gage has served Louisiana for over 40 years. Let Gage create a custom tailored solution for your business and become your partner in technology. Give them a call today at 225-753-4243 and help your business get better connected with Gage.
What does a bug man do?
Not only do we do pest control, we do odor control, bat removal, moisture control, rodents, and of course, bed bug control. Give the bug man a call. We get them before they get you.
Welcome back. Lieber Keene, your host. Mitch Small is our guest, retired LHSAA marketing director all those years. But let's talk about the Dome. We were talking about crowds, but in this segment, you were the voice of a lot of what was going on in the Dome. And those were some long days.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those that stayed and went to every game.
Yeah.
1A to 5A from 11 in the morning or 10 in the morning till 1 in the morning.
Yeah, some overtime games.
And you
in
did
the
all
middle of
those
that.
games.
I did.
You would announce on the mic, and you would do the trophies after.
We did a pregame. We thought it was important to recognize our head coaches, our teams, our principals. So we had the Saints for years, the Sugar Bowl for years, sponsored a coaches award, a principals award. In fact, our principals and coaches got the same watch that kids that played in the Sugar Bowl received. So we did that in the pregame, and then at halftime we recognized our all-academic kids. We did a poster design contest amongst our art. Every school that has an art component, their students were allowed to present artwork and vie for that became the cover of the program. And so we had some really neat things going on besides the football.
And I think we're going to show one that you gave us.
I did.
So we're going to put with Magic. We don't have it with us, but it's going to be seen since we're bringing that up.
I think it was the 25th anniversary poster that Rob
combination.
Mushmack had put together. It was a collage of all the previous year winners.
And what was your favorite? You said you had a Dome story that sticks out to you.
I do. I can't even remember the year, but it was probably late 90s, and Washita High School was playing Hahnville. Darren Barbier coaching at Hahnville, and Mike Valerie at Washita. Mike had a running back named Jamie Spencer. Spencer signed with Notre Dame.
He was the big deal.
When the game was over, they lost. When the game was over, we bring the losing coach and players that the media wanted to interview to the interview room, and then we'd bring the winning coach and players to be interviewed. And when Mike Valerie and Jamie Spencer and several of those other Washita players were exiting the interview room, Darren Barbier and his players, I'm not sure LaRon Landry wasn't on that team, but
that's later on.
They were down the hall, and they were going to come into the interview room. Well, Spencer looks down there and sees him. Now, he just lost the state championship, but yet he walked the opposite way to his locker room to go and shake everybody's hand. And why that moment in time has always stuck with me, fast forward, he plays at Notre Dame, has an okay career, and then becomes a successful businessman, married, and the whole 9 yards. I run into Mike Valerie a couple of years ago, and we're talking about that story. He coached in Texas after he left Washita, and he had a young man play for him that wanted to go to Notre Dame. He was a really good player. He was a Division I recruit. Mike made a call up there, and he mentioned to the coaches that this kid was cut out of the same character as Jamie Spencer.
Okay.
And they offered him sight unseen. full scholarship.
For those that don't know Jamie Spencer, you're talking about 91.
That would have been in the early
way
90s.
Way
yeah,
back.
Yeah.
He was Jerome Bettis, if you remember
Yes,
Jerome
he
Bettis
was.
of the Steelers.
Yeah.
6 foot,
Same deal.
250.
Pretty intimidating looking guy.
4'5".
Yes.
It
yeah.
just and Lou Holtz signed him at Notre
He
Dame.
did. He did.
But he was trying to clone Bettis.
That's pretty much.
But he had Bettis
Yeah.
for 3 more years.
That's right.
And that's why Jamie didn't play,
Yeah.
and then he left. Like I'm glad you shared it because I didn't know what happened to Jamie.
Yeah, he's from what Mike Valerie told me, he's a successful car dealer, businessman in Jackson, Mississippi.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the last I've heard.
But he was the biggest running back that could run a 10-900 meters at 245 pounds.
He was a pretty intimidating. He had a bald head, a shaved head. He looked 30 years old. He's pretty intimidating guy back in a high school football.
That was in your beginning with the LHSAA, right?
That's in my early years. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yes.
Barbier, Laurent Landry came like in 98, 99.
Yeah, later. A little later. you're
99.
correct. Yeah.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have more Mitch Small. And we're going to go back and forth in this segment. I want us to share players. Who are players that he can think about that he liked seeing play any sport?
Yeah.
And then I'll throw my 2 cents out. I don't know if I'll have any for swimming or golf, but I'll have them for maybe baseball, football, basketball. We'll be right back.
Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. If you need a paint job or repairs to your vehicle, go see Medine's Collision Center located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 357-7983. That's 357-7983. Your Baton Rouge Accident Advisors.
Welcome back. Lee Burkeen, your host of Sports Scouting Report. This segment, we got Mitch Small back with us. I hope you're being educated on this LHSAA background. I am. Heck, I didn't even know the principles. I had no idea after 29 years that was part of the whole setup. But in this segment, we want to talk about, and I think people love history, and they love talking about older players. I do, and I know Mitch does. But in my 30 years, I'm going to give out guys that I thought were the best ever, not for pro ability, just high school accomplishments.
Yeah.
And Mitch, you saw 4,000 championship games.
Roughly. Yeah.
I've seen 10,000 high school games.
Yeah.
One sport mostly.
Yeah.
Some baseball
Yeah.
I went to in basketball, but
Yeah.
who sticks out to you over the years? You had
Probably
mentioned Simone,
nobody
Augustus,
probably dominated their sport like Armando Duplantis did in
track.
Yeah, I mean, he's the greatest pole vaulter in the world, and
You saw him in high
I
school.
saw him
do
in
it?
high school, and I'll never forget. He stepped off of the podium, and I said, "So what do you have coming up?" And I meant like graduation, senior prom, final exams. He
Right.
goes, "I got to jump in Germany next week." You know, like it'd
Wow.
be like me and you going to Kaplan.
He's 17.
He's going to Germany. Yeah, 17 years old.
Lafayette High. Isn't that where he went?
Lafayette High. That's correct.
Now he broke records in high school.
He had the world junior record, now he's got the world record. He's just about every record you could have.
He's going to be in the greatest of
yeah,
all time.
Yeah, I read an article the other day that
And his mom and dad were in track at
they
LSU?
were both great athletes.
I
That's
think
right.
his mom's from
right.
Europe.
That's right.
originally.
Brother was a pretty good baseball player too.
Not bad. Antone Duplessis.
That's right.
And he's I think he's in Double A in baseball right now.
That's right. We had I remember getting a phone call at the LHS there. Somebody fielded a phone call. Like Capitol High had a girl that could shoot a 3-point jump shot either hand, and she was in like the 8th or 9th grade, and that was the great Simone Augustus.
Simone Augustus.
And she was prolific as well. She was just, incredible.
I've been to 3 high school baseball games that I can remember. One was Todd Walker, Airline High School.
Yeah.
Not a bad one to kind of like accidentally go to.
Pretty good.
In Bossier City. And I watched Aaron Nola pitch at Catholic High.
Another pretty good one.
And Josh Smith was on that team.
Yep.
And I got a chance to see that. They had 5 major leaguers off that Catholic High team. It was a day game.
Yeah.
It was weird, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at Catholic High, and there's 20 fans maybe,
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
just can't get off of work.
That's right.
And they were playing Captain Shreve. It just stuck with me. They were playing Captain Shreve. And I watched Aaron Nola. I'm like, this
Pretty
guy's
good.
throwing 94 miles an hour every pitch,
Yeah.
and had 4 pitches.
Yeah.
Kevin Falk
Yeah.
stuck out to me at Karen Crow.
Yeah, that was
We both
Kevin-
have a Leonard Fournette story, I think.
That's right. That's
What is
right.
your Leonard Fournette story?
His junior year, they're going to semifinals in playing St. Thomas More.
We're going to have the same story.
And I go to the game, never having seen him in person. That was our
Your first time?
That was our TV game.
That was your first time?
We had signed a TV contract, Fox Sports, and we were doing TV games. And so I'm at the game, and Kim Broussard, who's the athletic director at St. Thomas More, I'm talking to him on the field before the game. And I said, well, Kim, what do you think about what's your chances tonight? Well, Mitch, if we can hold him to under 200 yards, we'll be pretty good. And 2.5 hours later, he had 500. It was 500 something total yards that night in kickoff returns, 300 rushing, 100 and something passing.
40 plus carries.
He was incredible.
And they lost.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Brandon Bajaron
They
was
won
the
that game.
quarterback
They
for
won
St.
that
Thomas
game.
More.
They lost the next week.
Yeah, Brandon Bajaron was the quarterback for St. Thomas More who went on LSU.
Yeah.
Did his highlight tape, but I saw Leonard as a freshman.
Yeah.
And he was 6 foot, 200 pounds.
We'd gotten calls from sports writers in New Orleans saying, you got to see this freshman at St. Aug.
He was the best. He's still the best freshman running back in high school I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Who's 200 pounds, 6 foot, running 4.4?
Not many. Not many.
And look 30 as a freshman in high school. Yeah. Nobody plays as a freshman in high school in varsity. Not 5'8".
He was impressive the first time I ever laid eyes on him. Unfortunately, never made it to the Superdome. Never got St. Aug in the dome.
I hated that too, Mitch. What about basketball? I remember seeing Andrew Whitworth play for West Monroe.
I saw some outstanding basketball players over the years, but on the boys' side, probably Randy Livingston. Three state championships, 3 MVPs.
If it would for the injuries.
Yeah, that came after.
Right, but
he was the #1 recruit coming out of high school, Newman High School, and Peyton Manning and I think Cooper were on that team. So they have state championship rings, not in football, but they have them in basketball.
The greatest teams I ever saw were in the 90s, West Monroe, Evangel, Christian. Brock Berlin sticks out to me as a high school quarterback.
Incredible.
At Evangel. He was incredible. It didn't pan out. It doesn't always pan out in college, but he went to Miami, then Florida.
29 years, I had one guy autograph something for me in football, and it was Brock Berlin.
Come on.
I had a Gatorade hat, and we were doing a Gatorade promotion, and he had just won the state championship. I still have that somewhere.
The greatest D-line I've ever seen was at Evangel that year. Kenyatta Dawson, the late Cole Pittman, Byron Dawson, Chase Pittman.
Some great
They had 5 Power 5 D tackles signed in 2 years. 5.
Yeah, that's
to the
crazy.
top 5 programs.
That's great.
And then West Monroe had Brady James, Jason Ledoux, Brian West, and all their defense went Power 5 one year. We're going to take a break. We come back. We got one more segment with Mitch Small. We might just keep talking about great players that we've seen over the years.
Right.
Because people love that stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll be sure to mention their old high school. And think of some North Louisiana people. Yeah. We go to North Louisiana too, Mitch, and then
Haynesville.
We got to mention a Nagel when we come back in baseball.
That's
I know
right.
that you're big on. I know his dad, Johnny Nagel. We'll be right back.
Be sure to take your car and truck for all your tire needs to Trez & Care Tire Company located in Central. Call 331-8144. Family owned and operated. It's 1971. That's 331-8144. Gros Savon Lodge, the true sportsman's paradise. Gros Savon Lodge has fresh and saltwater fishing, alligator hunting, waterfowl hunting, and eco tours located south of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Give them a call at 337-598-2357. That number to call again is 337-598-2357, and have the time of your life.
Welcome back. Lee Burkeen, your host of Sports Scouting Report. Our guest, Mitch Small. Continuing on with great players, because we still won't get them all out. But I remember before Katrina, the year before, watching Chad Jones at St. Aug. And I was watching Delwyn Bro at McDonough 35. Yeah. And they both end up at Southern Lab High School.
Yeah.
And then Delwyn, actually, I talked to the other day. He's a Canadian Football League DB. He came out of retirement.
Really?
He's with the BC Lions. We're going to interview him. But Chad Jones was one of the greatest players I've ever seen play.
What an athlete.
And then I watched Tyrann Mathieu as a freshman at St. Aug. Mm-hmm. And he looked like the Tyrann Mathieu at LSU as a freshman. The first game I saw of Tyrann, his freshman year, he was about 5'8", Mitch, 150. Mm-hmm. He was a punt returner. That's how he got on the field. He scored 2 touchdowns, looked like the longest yard with Burt Reynolds, and he had 3 interceptions, 2 for touchdowns as interceptions.
Wow.
And I said, this guy is different. I mean, he was 5'8", 150. And then you talking about in baseball, Austin Nagel?
Austin Nagel, prolific hitter. Barb, just, perennial baseball power in Louisiana. And I saw Austin hit a game winner. It was at Legion Field in New Iberia that year. Hit one for the state championship. We thought it was going extra innings. And he got up to bat and he hit it, and it looked like a 4-iron leaving out of that.
Signed with LSU but went pro.
Yeah.
Golf, you talking about Loop? You got a Loop story?
I saw Andrew Loop and Patrick Reed at Beaver Creek battle for the state championship, and Reed beat him. And of course, Reed went on Ryder Cup history and winning the Masters. Sam Burns, who's on tour now, gave him the state championship medal in Lafayette. Julia Johnson, one of the most prolific girl golfers we've ever had in the state. She played at Ole Miss, won the national championship, first female sport Ole Miss has ever won a national championship in. And so, a lot of great memories.
Patrick Reed went to Georgia.
He did.
But he went to U-High.
Left Georgia and finished at Augusta State.
At Augusta State.
Yeah. One performance we had talked about off the air in the Dome, the Tristan Smith Salmon, 31-29, beating one of the better John Curtis teams, and he was sensational. The thing about that game, he's making his final drive, 6 for 6, by the way, against Curtis with less than 3 minutes to go on that last drive.
Team.
And
signed with LSU.
And the next game is Shaw West Monroe, which starts a half hour after that one, or an hour after that one, and the entire West Monroe coaching staff is in the end zone, at the edge of the end zone, watching Tristan Smith play against Curtis. That's a great memory.
What about the final 1 minute of the game, Zachary West Monroe a few years ago?
Incredible.
You were still
incredible.
With that. You were still doing
this
full time.
Who made that catch? Was it Chris Hilton?
Chris Hilton.
Hilton, yeah. What a.
But the game was over.
Yeah.
It's never over till it's over.
Until it's over. That's correct.
And West Monroe's up by a touchdown.
That's right.
Under a touchdown.
Yeah. Had the lead.
Zachary gets the ball on the 5.
Yeah.
And they got no timeouts.
Yeah.
And there's not even a minute left. Like 40 seconds maybe.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah.
And that was, I felt for the West Monroe people, but with Zachary, obviously, it was
nuts.
It was about 50,000 people.
Yeah, a lot of folks there for that one.
Any final Dome game that turned out crazy besides that one?
I saw Mansfield one year. The coach said he was going to wear a white tux if they ever made it, and he wore a white tux, and they're down 28-0 at half, so he comes out in street clothes in the second half. And Mansfield comes back and beats, I think it was Amite, 35-34.
Wow. Spencer Hurd was the star receiver.
Some great games.
He's now the head coach of Mendon.
That's right.
Spencer was a great player for Mansfield. Cecil Collins, I remember Cecil was one of the great ones. Leesville.
That's great.
And they played Salmon in the Dome.
That's right. And Salmon beat them.
18 of Salmon's 22 went D1 back in the day.
Isn't that crazy?
The Woods brothers.
Isn't that crazy?
Brandon Dale signed with LSU. The Woods brothers, Mike Sutton. Had 4 LSU signees on that team.
Yeah.
And Leesville had Cecil Collins.
Exactly. Yeah, best running back in the country at the time.
Running back Louisiana, huh?
Pretty much.
What about your neck of the woods, Lutcher? When you look at all the great players,
some great state championships.
Terrence Jones,
really was. Terrence was just a man amongst boys.
Washington at DB,
absolutely. Lionel,
yeah, 16 years in NFL.
Some great linemen, some great defenses on those Lutcher teams.
20 D1 quarterbacks over the years.
Isn't that something?
What sticks out with you at Lutcher?
Just the rivalries, the St. James. Long before I ever came to LHSAA, and there was no bridge there, and people would take the ferry boat across, and just true South Louisiana, or all of Louisiana football rivalries. Everybody knew everybody's. Daddies worked together, cousins, and stuff like that. So it was, great memories. St. James Lutcher,
home of Jarvis Landry. He's now a Saint.
That's correct.
You still involved with the LHSAA, even though you retired?
They hadn't found anybody that wants to do the announcing, the trophies and awards of the game, so they're still kind enough to call me and I'll go down to the Dome and do the announcing again this year.
Before we end the show, tell everybody what you've been doing as a retired person. I know you like to
well,
hunt.
I have a broke foot right now,
Uh-oh.
as you saw.
Right,
but when I'm not hunting, fishing, and golf, time with the grandkids. Grandson's at Catholic High. He's going to be a freshman, make his freshman quarterbacking debut.
Come on.
In the St. Thomas More Jamboree, ninth grade, this Saturday. So
gonna
we're
be busy.
excited. And then I have some other grandkids are involved in volleyball and softball, and I'm going to go to some flag football games.
And you married a sports person?
I did. Met my wife, Celeste. Celeste Janson was a girls basketball coach from Avoyelles High School.
Wow.
And we met and dated, and now I'm blessed with 5 grandkids, and it's been good.
The town of They Don't Punt.
That's right.
They don't punt to football.
That's right. In
They do the Canadian League, 3 downs.
That's right.
and
It's
that's
pretty good at it. They
pretty
went
good at
a
it.
long way.
Mitch, thank you for joining
Absolutely.
us, man.
Good seeing you.
Appreciate Mitch being a part of this. If you love history, you're going to love the show. And how can you not like talking about the old days? And you're still a part of it.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being on. And
Thank you.
Look, catch the show on YouTube or go to Podbean, or wherever you get your podcast. You can go to our website. And by the way, before I end the show, our new magazine will be out in a couple of weeks, Louisiana Football Magazine, our 26th year. It'll be out in 2 weeks. Go to the website. That's where you can get it now. That's what we do, lafootballmagazine.com. If you're a mom or dad listening, if your son's a freshman, he might not be in there, but if he's a sophomore, junior, senior, starter, get the magazine. You'll love it. It's all 300 high schools now, 12 colleges, lafootballmagazine.com. We'll see you real soon.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Burkeen.